I traveled up and down the East Coast, parties in Toronto, parties in Miami, chasing beats and DJs. Okay, let's take it back. Like baggy UFO pants and candy bracelets back. That far back. I started going to raves in like 99 or 2000 when I was about 17. It was like some small warehouse parties, underground parties that used to have the map key where you'd have to go and meet like at a general spot and like they would tell you where to go to the next spot. It was literally underground shit. It was not mainstream anything. Went to some really dark, sketchy venues. Like I always had like busted speakers and questionable bathrooms. Honestly, that just made the vibe that much more real. For one party I went to at a local, and someone just mirrored shit all over the walls. That was like a vibe kill. That was like such a vibe kill. That was one of the very first parties I ever went to. Things changed though. I mean, like it's so different now. But after that, I like stepped up my game a little bit. Found like the real rave scene. Places like the Asylum in Springfield. I used to go there every other weekend. They'd have a party there, huge with like 20 like huge DJs, like, and you, it was like $20 to get in, and it was 16 and over. They didn't sell alcohol. It was like it was the vibe, man. It was like, if you know, you know. That place was filthy, filthy. But I say that with like lots of love in my heart. Sticky floors, fog machines like that just never shut off, and music so loud it rattled your soul, best possible way. And like you'd go home with like a raver funk, total like this coating of like I don't even know what to call it, but you had to be there. You know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. A lot of people think that the rave scene is or was just about the drugs, but at that time, it wasn't. Not for me. It just wasn't. Like, of course, there was things going on there, but it was so much more about the vibe, like the people, connections you'd make. It was it was like literally it was a vibe, and we were just like a bunch of misfits who somehow finally found somewhere where we can all get together and just like be able. Nobody cared. We were everybody fit in, and it was like these people became my family. Like all like a lot of us met on this old school message board, raversonly.com. That message board was my life. I mean, I used to come home from whatever and go right to the Ravers Only message boards. I couldn't even tell you how I stumbled upon it. That message board kind of sort of changed my life. I would have made it into the rave scene without having stumbled upon this website. I remember trying to come up with like a cool like a rave themed like username. I was stumped. I know I just started going to raves. Nobody had given me a name, but I wanted to like be cool. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to like squeeze in and like not be noticeable. Like I don't know what the hell's going on here. I don't know where the hell I came up with my name, but my name was like Vix Chick. Yeah, that should tell you everything you need to know about where my head was at, literally. And if that name doesn't mean anything to you, you're either far too young or you just never knew how to have fun. Long live Vix Chick. And to be completely honest, I don't think I ever really like used Vix while it was under the influence. I know it was a thing, but it wasn't really my thing. And to be honest with you, I don't know why or how I came up with that name, but that was it. And I will never forever be known as Vixie, aka Vix Chick. From then on, it was just like a rap. I was full blown party kid. I found myself watching movies like Groove and Party Monster and immersing myself in all that is rave. I was literally at parties every single weekend for 10 years, maybe a little less. Sometimes I'd be at multiple parties in multiple states in the same weekend. The Asylum, the Keysgate in the Bronx, the Hammerstein Ballroom, the Municipal in Hartford, Connecticut. I traveled up and down the East Coast, parties in Toronto, parties in Miami, chasing beats and DJs. Yeah, I said it. And late night rendezvous with my friends. I did a lot of new things during that time. Most of them were probably not good. I tried it all. And there's probably a few I still couldn't name even if I tried. I'd have to really think about it. Other experiences that happened weren't as bad, but sexuality, yeah. Yep. I remember there was this girl on Rivers Only, Vanessa, aka, well, her name on there was Nessa, and she had like this reputation, right, for turning straight girls bi. I was absolutely sure I was straight. I was pretty intimidated by her, and I did not want her to try to make a move on me. I was scared shitless. And I remember one night we were in the asylum bathroom, probably to ingest some illicit substance. Couldn't tell you which one. I don't remember that part, but I do remember her grabbing me literally and pushing me against the wall in the stall. And the next thing I knew, she was kissing me like she had never kissed anybody before, like it was the end of the world. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not so straight. Still one of the most passionate, intimate moments ever in my life. And I owe it to a rave and a girl named Vanessa. I remember this one party. We were at a venue. It was like an arcade, and it was somewhere Utica and Syracuse, somewhere in there in New York. It was a tiny arcade. It wasn't a big party. It was like in the middle, and in the middle of the party, I remember all the lights just fucking came on, and all of a sudden DEA, ATF were like bum rushed the doors, and literally you had to freeze. Like, I mean, everybody just froze, and I had just purchased a bag of 5 pills in one of those thick, like Ziploc little bags, and I mean, you couldn't move a muscle, so they made everybody sit down. You couldn't talk. You couldn't do anything. You had to do what they said. Sit down, and like they were calling people up one by one and like questioning you to see if you were under the influence or whatever. And then they were checking your car. So I remember I had these pills in my hand, and I had just got them, and I'm like, how am I gonna get them from my hand to my mouth before I get called up there and then have to speak? I thought I was done. And don't ask me how I did it, because I have no idea. I remember somehow I got it to my mouth and swallowed that bag within a millisecond of when I had to answer whatever question this guy was going to ask me. Oh my God. And I was like, well, I'm going to be so super high later. And after everything was said and done, we ended up going to an after party at a hotel. And I couldn't wait to get high because I had just taken 5 pills. I never got high. Never did. I was disappointed, but that was a close call. I figured the bag would have like worn away in my stomach and I would have felt the pills, but I never did. Ever. Not even at all. That was the only party that I had that was ever actually rated, but we did always used to have like our after parties rated. I remember Springfield was like notorious for it. They only have, by the asylum, the only hotels that are right there are all like the nicer hotels, like the Hiltons, the Marriott's. Like there's no like motels in that general area, and that's what we would do. We'd get these nicer hotels. And I remember one time the cops ran in our room, and we had this huge mirror, like huge. I shit you not, there was every single illicit substance you could think of on that mirror when the cops came in. I don't know how or why, but they let everybody go. They let everybody go. No questions asked. They just said, get out now. And we got out. I think I would have learned my lesson by that. Nah, none of us did. Another time, someone in my crew that I actually brought to the asylum with me, she ended up, after the party, she ended up setting off the fire alarms in the hotel, and the entire hotel had to be evacuated. And we all got booted that night. I never brought her again. There were a lot of hotels we did get kicked out of, though. Red Roof in Springfield was like our go-to until it wasn't. I remember a party at the asylum. It was New Year's of 2004, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a fucking DJ groupie. A DJ groupie. Big one. And one of the DJs I had like a thing for was spinning that night at the asylum. He had like a girlfriend. He was not interested in me at that time. But whatever. After the party, I was going to go back to the Red Roof with the crew that I always went back to. But him and his friends were a little bit more mature, I guess you could say. I don't know. They had their own hotel down the street, and they were going to chill and party too. And he asked me if I wanted to go with him. I'm like, yeah, I want to go. Of course I want to go. So I went and partied with him. And then when checkout was, they were all getting ready to head back to New Jersey. I live in New York. So I was heading back to the Red Roof where my friends were partying. And I had people I had to give rides to. And whatever. So I'm like, we parted ways, getting back to the Red Roof, and they were still partying hard. They ended up partying for the next 24 hours at the Red Roof. I somehow got talked into driving from Springfield another hour and a half away from my house to Boston to just party more. And I remember we get to a fellow partier's house. Shout out to Jersey and Shauna. That was fucking an awesome night, or a couple nights, 3, 4. I remember it was just chaos. Every freaking you could think of was there. And I remember they had this big like projections like that took up the screen, took up the whole wall. It was huge, and they were playing like Tony Hawk, like the skateboarding game. So everyone's chilling, everyone's fucking doing whatever they're doing, and someone broke me out a line, and I thought it was Coca-Cola. And so I fucking did it, and I immediately knew it was not Coca-Cola. Ended up being K. And I had never done that before. I never wanted to. It was just not on my agenda. But I remember at that point didn't know, but I found out immediately what it was, and there was no getting out of it. Got myself into a huge K-hole. I distinctly remember I thought I was skateboarding with Tony Hawk, and I was like dodging the Matrix. Yeah. It was unexpected. I don't know. I had no choice, but I couldn't fight it at that point because I did like a huge lot of it. It was never my favorite. I didn't really like it too much. I did do it here and there, but it wasn't something I would have sought out. I've done them all, the exception of DMT, which they didn't have back in my day. That wasn't a thing. Everything else, I've tried it. And that was probably one of my least favorites. I don't know. I just didn't like the way it made you feel. And I definitely didn't like K-hole. But that entire party was super fun, and obviously I made it home safely after 3-4 days, maybe. Every other Saturday night when they'd have parties at the asylum, we would have a midnight meetup at the bar for like the Ravers Only crew. And this is when like digital cameras first came out. Like you actually had to like plug it into your computer and like download the fucking photos. We didn't have like cell phones with like cameras. This is how long ago that was. Take group pics. I used to have so many. I don't know what I did with them. I think I lost them somewhere in transit. But I used to have so many pictures of myself and the crew. I would take pictures in like our rave gear, right, which was quite unique to say the least. Not like they do now. My attire of choice, what I chose to wear, was SpongeBob. Yeah, SpongeBob. That yellow sponge that lives under the sea. I had SpongeBob everything. I had SpongeBob socks. I had SpongeBob t-shirts. I had bandanas. I even had the SpongeBob backpack. And I used to wear those really baggy UFOs that allegedly turned into a backpack. I actually never really quite figured that part out, but I had those in every color. And the candy. Oh my God. Plastic beaded bracelets from like your wrist to your elbow, both arms. The ones I made were basic, but they were made with a lot of love. I spent many hours, blood, sweat, and tears beating those babies. Like, you would take them and trade them with people you vibed with at the party or people whose first rave it was. Like, so you'd collect beads from literally other people, and it was my arms were covered in love. They sure were. Bead at a time. I had collected some pretty dope bracelets. And I have to give a shout out to my boy Ricky, aka Gabber Monkey, for bringing me to my very first asylum party. And for all those late nights watching Groove on VHS, rented from Blockbuster. And showing me how to beat some dope ass candy. Music at that time was everything. There are so many different kinds of electronica. It's unfortunate that like ravers today don't know and appreciate a real DJ, someone that produces their own tracks. I bet you most today couldn't decipher house music from trance, from drum and bass to happy hardcore. At most venues, there were rooms for every type of music. There'd be like the main stage would be trance and house music, and then drum and bass would be tucked away in a side room, and then hardcore would have its own room. Yeah, it was like a choose your own adventure in the strobe lights and bass lines. You'd have to find your groove and just lose it in whatever music you chose, or all of them if that was your choice. Like bounce from room to room. Eventually, unfortunately, they tore the asylum down, literally paved paradise and put up a fucking parking lot. Honestly, that was like a sad, sad day. It still actually hurts my heart just a little. Those walls, dirty as they were, held so many of the best memories of my late teenage and early 20s. If those walls could talk, the stories they would tell. Some of the people that I have grown to know and love in the scene are unfortunately not with us anymore. Danny, Mikey B, DJ Iconic, Rob Romeo, and I'm sure there's more. It's a sad reality. I will hold my memories of them and with them so true to my heart. I did end up hitting up like Ultra and Miami Music Week a few times back when it was actually called the Winter Music Conference. One year, I think it was 2011, around 20 of us from Ravers Only reunited and met up down there. And that was probably my last big electronic music event, and that was 2011. Everything had changed a little by then, but I guess I had changed some too. But the people I surrounded myself with that vacation, with the music, quite possibly the illicit substances too, it was real for me just one last time. I remember the second night of Ultra, we were all laid out in this towel, they had like a little water. I don't know if it was like a pond. I don't fucking remember that part, but we were all laid out in this towel and just watching the stars and ripping on ass. It was great. It was not a care in the world. And I was like, there was some of the coolest, most down to earth, caring people I'd ever met in my life. People I will remember and cherish to the day I die. On our separate ways. Some people actually still go to parties 20 years later. I think that was the last party I've been to at all because I just don't, because my life has changed and now I have anxiety and a bunch of things that I did not ever have back then, thankfully. But looking back, the rave scene saved me. It fucking saved me. I was so lost at the time. I was constantly fighting with my mother. My dad had disowned me, and I was drifting from the few high school friends that I had. I feel like I didn't really belong anywhere. I was majorly depressed. But in the rave world, I did. For a weekend, every weekend, I felt like I had a purpose. I had people that cared about me, a family. I had a good time, a reason to dress up in stupid SpongeBob SquarePants gear and dance until the fucking sun comes up. Nobody cared where you came from, what you looked like, what you wore, who you loved, your sexual orientation. Nobody cared. We were all there for the music, the vibes, the freedom, the unity. It was actually all about the plur. It was wild. It was wavy. It was in wicked. I was so lucky. I got to experience the real rave scene, the kind of feeling and vibe that cannot be recreated no matter how many LED gloves or people wear or how scantily clad they're dressed. Closed out that era with a bang. I'm proud to have been a part of it all. What a time to be alive, baby.